Greetings, loved ones. You know, we like to think that we know what child abusers look like, that we can pick them out of the crowd based on their creepy mustaches, darkly tinted cargo vans, or their giant, thick-rimmed glasses. But those stereotypes are just that, stereotypes. And like all stereotypes, they fall tragically short. Today, we are going to talk about the characteristics of child predators. This is episode 1 of 2. So help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and please share these messages with others. So let's talk about characteristics of child sexual predators. This is really important information. We must come to terms with the heartbreaking reality that those who pose the greatest risk to our children are within our families, our churches, and circle of friends. We like to think that we know what child abusers look like. And like I said earlier, that we can pick them out of the crowd based on their mustaches and their darkly tinted cargo vans or giant thick rimmed glasses, but those stereotypes are just that, stereotypes. And as I said before, like all stereotypes, they fall tragically short of the truth. The fact is, child abusers are not others. They do not walk around with signs that say monster. They are able to violate our trust and children's lives and bodies and minds because we trust them. This teaching aims to equip you with information about the true and factual characteristics of child sexual predators. It may seem counterintuitive to what you assumed, but it is vital that communities come to grasp with these characteristics. Otherwise, we'll just be wasting our time and energy on misinformation. So let's begin with some myths about predators. Let's begin with dispelling some of those myths about predators. Many of these myths you have likely heard before as they're repeated on TV by news anchors, spread like wildfire throughout Christian circles, and sometimes even featured on respectable organizations' websites. So after looking at these myths, we'll turn to the facts regarding the average child sexual predator. Number 1, myth. Predators are strangers with candy and white cargo vans. The fact is, stranger danger is a red herring. People who sexually abuse children are statistically more likely to fixate on specific children in their personal networks. The Child Molestation Research and Prevention Institute has noted that 90% of child molesters target children in their network of families and friends. Only 10% of child molesters molest children that they don't know. Second myth. Homosexuality is a warning sign for pedophilia. The fact is, people who sexually abuse children are more likely to be fixated on children than any given gender identity. Many child molesters cannot be characterized as having an adult sexual orientation at all. They are fixated on children. And as we shall see later, people in opposite sex relationships are more likely to abuse children than people in same-sex relationships. The third myth, predators were all abused as kids. The fact is, the cycle of abuse is more myth than reality. While Child Help notes that it's true that about 30% of abused and neglected children will later abuse their own children, it's also important to note that 70% of abuse survivors will not abuse theirs or other children. Insinuating that abused people abuse people only increases the stigma around disclosing and discussing personal experiences of abuse. The fourth myth for today is that predators aren't Christians or homeschoolers. Fact. Now, if you are a Christian, take a hold of your seat. Predators can be Christians, homeschoolers, or even Christian homeschoolers. A prime example would be the recent revelations regarding the Jackson family from North Carolina. The parents of this family hid and ignored child sexual abuse perpetrated by 6 of their sons for over a decade, supposedly. 2 of the brothers were members of Hope Baptist Church, pastored by Vision Forum colleague Scott Brown, and many instances of severe abuse and neglect documented on homeschooling's Invisible Children also demonstrate this. As tragic as it is, child sexual abuse can materialize in Christian homeschool communities, and we're going to talk a lot more about that later. The 5th myth is predators are easily identifiable because of their big glasses and mustaches. The fact is, stereotypes are just stereotypes. They actually fall extraordinarily short of the actual picture of the average predator, as we shall see shortly. And as we can see from the aforementioned example of the Jackson family, predators can look just like the people in our surrounding community. The Jackson brothers, who sexually abused their sister, appeared like model conservative Christian homeschool alumni. There is no magic formula, therefore, to identify abusers by outward characteristics. As the Vermont Department for Children and Families states, it is impossible to describe a typical abuser. They look and act in various ways. They can be found in all areas of society and are often well-respected members of our communities. They may appear to be kind, caring people who are great with kids. You see, abusers work really hard to cultivate this image so people will not suspect them of and will not believe it if they were ever accused of sexually abusing children. And I'm going to insert something here. Many years ago with our ministry in Honduras, another ministry joined up with us to work together, and it was led by a man. We later discovered that this man was a child predator. And why did, you would think if everybody knows I go after these people to bring justice and rescue victims, why would he choose to be such a close friend of mine? And the reason was because if somebody accused him of something, he could then say, well, I'm Gracie's friend. You think she'd be friends with a child sexual predator? So, yeah, we dealt with that, and we did the investigation and turned it over to the authorities. So, yeah. If the aforementioned beliefs are myths that we discussed it, so we're going to talk about the average child sexual predator, then what do we know about the average child sexual predator? We know that contrary to popular stereotypes, predators resemble the average American male in outward characteristics. As the Child Molestation Research and Prevention Institute says, we know that child molesters are as equally married, educated, employed, and religious as any other Americans. According to the CDC, over half of all children in the world, that's 1 billion children ages 2 to 17, experience violence every year. The question is not if you'll encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. Micah 6:8 says, He showed you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. I want you to know that there is a way out. It is not your fault. Abuse is not love. And you, most of all, I want you to know you are not alone. If you are suffering violence, reach out to someone today. If you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. If you know of a child or other person suffering violence, tell the authorities. In our next episode, we will continue discussing the characteristics of child sexual predators. Until then, God bless you.